23 habits. 23 habits to get you back into the writer's chair. Hello, fiction babes and storytellers. I'm your host, Portia Leivette, and this week we are celebrating 6 months of Habits of a Writer. We've covered quite a few, so I wanted to do a recap, starting with identity habits. This is who you become as a writer. You become the writer you practice being. You trust yourself as a storyteller. You act like the author before you feel like one, and you stop waiting for confidence and build through action. These are all things that instead of sitting around waiting to feel like a writer, we just act on it. We talked about protection habits, guarding your creativity. Protect the writer time like it matters because it does. We know around here, we say if we put it on a calendar, it's getting done. We talked about reduce distractions to deepen your focus. Talking to my dogs. They don't care. Uh, we talked about being mindful of the cost of constant visibility. This is where we talked about running to the internet to tell a story before the story is actually done. And we talked about limiting how much advice you consume. Create more than you consume. YouTube is great. YouTube University, I love it too. But sometimes you just got to turn it off and do the work, do the thing. We talked about process habits. This is how you write. Plan before you write. Plotting is preparation, not restriction. Track your progress without self-punishment. We got to stop judging ourselves. Use structure as a guide, not a cage. And stay with the work longer than it feels comfortable. This week we started a series, actually last week. Last week we started a series about dusting off our old manuscripts and getting back into them. And that's really what it's about, just sitting down, asking all the right questions to get started back again. We talked about story habits, craft, and depth. You can start, sorry, you can't build a strong plot on shallow psychology. Basically, we got to go more than surface levels. Brown eyes, black curly hair, those are great things to understand about your character. But we want to get down into what's your character's beliefs, why they're doing what they're doing. We talked about going deeper with your character, not wider with your plot. I think a lot of the things that I talk about are more character-driven plot instead of just an event happens and this is how the character reacts to it. We talked about let the antagonist challenge beliefs, not just create conflict. Our antagonist has a whole lot of work to do. And one of their main jobs is to make our protagonist make the change that they need to make. I said make a lot, didn't I? We talked about right toward transformation, not perfection. We're not looking for perfect here. It doesn't exist, not in our world, anyways. We talked about finishing habits. This is where most writers struggle. And this is really what my podcast is about. Don't start over. Go deeper into what you already wrote. And again, that's our focus on the series that we started last week. We ask better questions instead of forcing the next scene. Why is that scene really necessary? What needs to happen in that scene? We talked about when the story stalls, look for what hasn't been understood yet. And this is where we need to go deeper. And we talked about finish the story you started. That's the number one habit. And lastly, we talked about signature habits. You cannot build a serious writing life in fragments. We have to plan. Well, you have to pull out that planner. You have to block out that time. And you have to let people know, don't bother me. Plot is pressure. If nothing is forcing change, the story stops. And that might be where you've stalled if you're in the middle of a story. And your story isn't broken. You just haven't understood it yet. I'm so excited for this last 6 months, and I can't wait to continue with you all over the next 6 months. I've got a lot more to say. I hope you'll join me. Here's the 6 months. See, I poured a glass for you too. 6 months of habits, and we'll keep going strong. Happy writing, my friends.